Hi, Assalamualaikum and good morning. So I am Dr. Ilianis from UITM Cawangan, Pulau Pinang. I am here to present a paper, my study conducted in Sabah, and the title of my study is Maximizing English Reading Resources for a Reading Corner in a Rural School, Teachers' Perceptions on Students' Reading Interests. So the introduction for my study would be, I am focusing more on the learner-centered approach. So because nowadays we are trying to shift towards students' development over the exam-centered teaching. As all of us know, most of the schools here in Malaysia are trying to convert this system, and therefore there is also no longer UPSR. So the government has already been implementing this method, and we are focusing more on the learner-centered approach. And then as for another part of my introduction, we'll be focusing on the Malaysian Education Plan 2013 to 2025. The priority is on the learner development and closing the urban-rural school gaps and English language learning. So this point is closely related to my study because we went to one of the rural schools in Sabah, and we focused on the English language learning in the aspect of reading. Okay, and the third is the challenges in rural areas. So we could see that there's limited education access due to the geographical issue, and therefore I believe research needed, to be done to access the quality and the conditions so that we know what's going on there, and a proper solutions and proper steps should be taken to overcome whatever problems that we are having in the rural areas. So the background of my study would be, like I mentioned earlier, we focused in one of the schools in Sabah. And Sabah is actually a home to a significant number of rural elementary schools. So the place that I went, the school that I went, there were only, I guess, less than 20 students from standard 1 until standard 6. So standard 1 was only, I think in the class, there was only 1 or 2 students for standard 1. And standard 2, maybe around 2 or 3 students. So the most was like, I guess, 5 or 6 students in a class, which, the total of the whole school, only around 20 students. So, but in Sabah, generally, there's a significant number of rural elementary school with a total of 909 such schools, and 184,160 students, making it one of the states in Malaysia with the highest number of rural elementary schools. So the Malaysian Education's Development Plan for 2013 to 2025 emphasizes the importance of ensuring equal access to quality education that meets international standards. And reading interest serves as the motivational basis for the individual to analyze, remember, and evaluate what they read. It is a vital foundation for lifelong learning and should be developed from an early stage. So from here, we could see that would be the main contribution to our research. So I went there to study on the reading skills and the teachers' perceptions on the students' reading interest. We asked lots of questions to the teachers, and we found out a lot. And later I'm going to share with you all about our findings. The next point would be recognizing the importance of arousing the reading interest among students, especially in the rural school. We strive to support and make efforts to maximize reading resources for a reading corner in one of the rural primary schools in Sabah. Okay, that would be all for the background of study. And as for the problem statement, I've got four. So the first one would be the gap in education and language development. I found that the school system prioritizing complex curricula over diverse students' needs, which results in effective management, yeah, so which resulted from the ineffective management, which I feel that it should be changed. And the evaluation and the assessment should be done on students skills and students interest rather than the complex curriculum. The next point would be the consequences of ineffective language use. So lack of language proficiency leads to difficulties in acquiring reading skills, poor literacy, and disciplinary issues. So I guess this would be one of the problems as well. When students don't feel motivated, or when students lack of language proficiencies, so they feel that they could not understand, or they are not confident enough to read, first of all, and then even when they read, they don't have the full comprehension of what they have read. And this actually leads to poor reading skills and then poor literacy, and leads to many other problems later in the student's life, I would say. And then the challenges in reading acquisition, difficulties mastering reading skills, lack of interest in reading, and poor oral skills hinder comprehension and concentration. Just like what I mentioned a few minutes ago, whereby, you know, when students don't have the motivation to read and they have difficulties in mastering the reading skills, and they lack of comprehension, so these could lead to so many other problems. Yeah. And the last problem statement would be the unique challenges in rural setting. Factors, there are so many factors as such: poverty, inadequate parental attention, disability, illness, and genetic predisposition further impede the reading skill acquisition, especially in rural areas. So the place that I went, the school that I went to, uh, I would say most of the factors that I mentioned just now would be the factors that affect the reading interest and the reading mastery in most rural schools. Even though I went to only one, but I would say that one, the school that I went cover. I'm not to say I don't want to generalize this, but I would say that that school particularly having all the factors mentioned in this slide. So it's so sad. Okay, I've got one research questions and one research objective. So my research question would be to what are the teachers' perceptions of the students' reading motivation and interest, as well as their experiences in promoting reading in a rural school. And the objective of this research would be to investigate teachers' perceptions of their students' reading motivation and interest, as well as their experiences in promoting reading in a rural school setting. The methodology would be our methodology. So we employed a qualitative approach to provide a holistic view of the reading motivation and interest of students in a rural school setting. So the investigation is based on audio tape interview sessions with the teachers. To be precise, I interviewed 3 teachers, and the coding guideline was developed from Allen and Burridge theory, and was used due to its systematic and logical processes for identifying the required data. So some of the interview questions. So what do you think of the students' reading habit? What motivates the students to read? How about the reading resources here? What are the techniques used by the teachers here to encourage the students to read? And what are the challenges faced by the teachers? And from the findings, we found out that there were actually all the questions were answered by 3 teachers, and after coding, so we came to 5 codes, 5 themes, which are reading habit, motivation, resources, encouragement techniques, and challenges.